Hello everybody. I am glad you have arrived here for another injection of ASMR tingles. So you would like to know what are lunar eclipses? I'm going to talk about lunar eclipses, what they are, and why do they occur, and how do they work. And so that's going to be today's topic. So let's begin. So what are lunar eclipses? So a lunar eclipse is where the moon passes behind Earth's shadow. It passes through Earth's shadow and Earth casting a shadow on the moon. So you may have heard about solar eclipses. These are spectacular celestial events where the moon goes in between the sun and the earth, casting a shadow on Earth. And at one point you could see the sun completely blocked out by the moon. I've watched it like a few days ago actually, before recording this. So that's what a solar eclipse is. But however, a lunar eclipse is where the earth casts a shadow on the moon, blocking the sunlight from reaching the moon. So the moon goes behind Earth and passes through Earth's shadow and blocks the sunlight reaching from the moon. So how does a lunar eclipse happen? Why do they occur? So when the moon goes in to Earth's shadow, the moon will slowly become unlit due to the light being blocked by Earth, making the moon dimmer and dimmer. In some cases, the moon will turn red, especially when the moon is completely within Earth's shadow. So if the moon goes red, we sometimes call it a blood moon. Okay, a blood moon effect because of how blood is red and the moon looks like it's bloody red. It's like bloody red, like a knife becoming red, but the moon becomes red. Okay. Like solar eclipses, there are 3 types of lunar eclipses. So before I will explain the 3 types of lunar eclipses, I'm going to explain how Earth casts shadows. So the Earth has 2 types of shadows, the umbra and the penumbra. Okay, so the umbra is the main part of Earth's shadow, the inner part of the Earth's shadow. It is where most of the sunlight is blocked. Then there is the penumbra, the outer part of Earth's shadow. The penumbra, the outer part of Earth's shadow. So now I told you that there are 2 types of the 2 parts of Earth's shadow. I'm going to explain now the 3 types of lunar eclipses. So the first one is a penumbral eclipse. That's where the moon only goes into the outer shadow, the penumbra, but does not enter the umbra. So it completely misses the umbra. So if you see a penumbral lunar eclipse, the moon will only slightly be dimmer. In many cases, you will not notice that a penumbral lunar eclipse is happening without knowing that there is a penumbral eclipse, as the dimming of the moon is very subtle. Some mouse sounds. I'm clicking my mouse right now. Okay, now the next type is the partial lunar eclipse. So this is where the moon enters the penumbra and also hits part of the umbra. So the moon goes into part of the umbra but does not completely go inside the umbra. So, for partial lunar eclipse, only part of the moon becomes unlit. So that's pretty self-explanatory, like partial, almost self-explanatory. So it's partially blocked. And then there is my favorite one, a total lunar eclipse. Okay, a total lunar eclipse. So a total lunar eclipse is when the moon completely goes within the Earth's main inner shadow, the umbra. So the moon goes completely inside the shadow. And so total eclipses are the ones that the moon becomes red. So the moon becomes red because light of different wavelengths becomes scattered. So they go through Earth's atmosphere, and the blues and greens and purples become scattered away and does not touch the moon, while the lights of longer wavelengths touch the moon. If I said Earth, wait. So to re-explain it, the moon's light, the shorter wavelengths, like the blues and the greens and the purples, they scatter away from the moon and does not touch the moon, while the longer wavelengths, like the orange and reds, don't scatter easily and touch the moon. And that's why the moon looks red or orange when a total lunar eclipse happens. So that gives it off its blood moon effect. So this effect is similar to sunsets, where the sun becomes orange and red when it sets. Okay. So now I'm going to explain why lunar eclipses occur. So first, I'm going to explain how the moon has different phases. So if you look at the sky, you can see that sometimes the moon is half, sometimes there's a half moon, sometimes there's a full moon, sometimes you don't see moon at all. So lunar eclipse, so the moon goes through many different phases. Part of the moon where the part that is lit changes over time due to the position of its orbit. So depending on where the moon is at its orbit. So first off, there is a new moon where the moon is near the sun and you don't see it. And then as it orbits, part of the moon becomes more and more lit. So you get a crescent moon, and then you get a half moon. It's called quarters, and then they're called gibbous, where most of the moon is lit. And then there is the full moon, where the moon, all of the disk of the moon is completely lit by the sun. And then it becomes unlit, back to gibbous, and then a quarter, and then a crescent, and back to new moon. So it's a cycle of phases that repeats as the moon completes orbits, as the moon orbits the Earth. It goes through many phases, okay? The one I'm going to pay attention is a full moon phase, because that's the only phase of the moon where lunar eclipses can happen, okay? So, lunar eclipses only happen during the full moon. So while solar eclipses only happen during the new moon, lunar eclipses have to be in full moon. Only occur during the full moon because it requires the moon to go behind the Earth, opposite to the side of the sun. Okay. So, and that's when lunar eclipses happen. Okay. But while the moon orbits, makes a complete revolution around the Earth, the moon does not eclipse. The moon does not always enter Earth's shadow, so lunar eclipses don't always happen every time a full moon happens. So this is because the moon's orbit is inclined, it's tilted. It's not completely aligned in the same plane. So every time there's a full moon, most of the time, the moon misses Earth's shadow it goes around, it goes above or below Earth's shadow. That's what most of the time it happens. But if the moon is completely aligned, that's when it goes through Earth's shadow, and that's when lunar eclipses happen. So like when the moon goes behind a shadow, partially or totally, at the right moment, that's when lunar eclipses happen. Okay. This is a glow-in-the-dark, a little like a glow-in-the-dark ball, like which would represent the moon, but I got this a long time ago, back when I was a teenager. Okay. So now I will explain, how do we see lunar eclipses? Okay. So lunar eclipses are much easier to see than solar eclipses. First off, it is easier to catch a lunar eclipse other than a solar eclipse. While a solar eclipse is like requires you to be in a certain path, like a strip of an area, like a strip where where you are within the shadow of the moon on Earth, and you have to be very lucky to see a total solar eclipse. But to see a total lunar eclipse, it's much easier, because a lunar eclipse is visible as long as the moon passes Earth's shadow if it's nighttime on Earth. If it's nighttime on Earth and you happen to see, and the moon happens to pass through Earth's shadow, you'll see a lunar eclipse. You'll be able to see a lunar eclipse. And unfortunately, the only downside to lunar eclipses is that they only happen during the nighttime. So usually you are asleep and you're dreaming, but if you want to see a lunar eclipse, you kind of have to be awake and maybe even have to pull an all-nighter, but you'll have to pay your sleep credit card after. So although you need to stay awake to watch a lunar eclipse, lunar eclipses are also safe to look at. So, as a solar eclipse will require you eye protection to view them, you cannot even wear glasses. These glasses won't work. Like, you'll need to wear eclipse glasses to wear a solar eclipse. I don't have them right now because it's archived. But as solar eclipses require you to wear special types of glasses, not these ones, lunar eclipses are really safe, and you can easily watch them without eye protection, without risking eye damage. That's for lunar eclipses. So, if you wonder when the next lunar eclipse is and you would like to see one, the next partial lunar eclipse will be on September 18th, 2024. And the next total lunar eclipse will happen next year, March 14th, 2025. Less than 1 year away after making this video. So if you're dying to watch a lunar eclipse, mark those dates. Okay. So that is going to wrap up this video about me explaining lunar eclipses, and that will be it. So I hope you enjoyed your tingles. If you liked this ASMR-fied video, please give this video a thumbs up. It will be greatly appreciated. If you're new to this channel and it's your first time watching one of my videos, welcome to my channel. I make ASMR formatted videos like this one. I make ASMR-fied videos from coding to gaming, all the way to explaining facts and storytelling. And that's it for today, and stay tuned for the next video.